Rain poured over Lagos that night. Grace Williams sat in her car, tired from a long day. She was 70 years old, wealthy and powerful, but 20 years ago, she lost her only daughter Rose in a fire. As her driver James slowed near a bus shelter, Grace saw a young girl kneeling in the rain, shielding a sick woman with an old cloth. The headlights flashed across the girl's face. Grace's heart stopped. The girl looked exactly like her grandson Ben. The same eyes, the same face, but that was impossible. Grace's hands trembled. Her mind whispered something she thought was buried forever. Rose. "James," she said quietly, "find out who that girl is." Something told her this was not an accident, and Grace Williams always trusted her instincts. But could it be true? Was this poor girl shivering in the rain really her own great-granddaughter? And if she was, where had she been all these years? It had been a long, terrible day. Joy had woken up at 4 a.m. to sell oranges at the market. By noon, she was washing plates at a small restaurant. By evening, she was cleaning an office building. 3 jobs, every single day. And still, it was never enough. Mary's hospital bills kept piling up. The doctors said she needed surgery, but surgery costs money. More money than Joy had ever seen in her life. Tonight, they had been on their way home when Mary collapsed. Joy had tried to flag down a taxi, but no one stopped. They all saw her torn dress, her bare feet, and drove past without a second glance. So, Joy had carried Mary to this bus shelter, hoping the rain would stop soon. But the rain did not stop. It only grew heavier. Joy's arms burned from holding the wrapper up. Her stomach growled with hunger. She had not eaten since morning. But she ignored it all. Mary was all she had in this world. The woman who found her as a baby. The woman who raised her with love, even though they had nothing. "I will take care of you, Mama," Joy said softly, wiping her forehead with her hand. "Just like you took care of me." Mary smiled weakly, her lips dry and cracked. "You are my blessing, Joy, my light." Suddenly, bright headlights cut through the darkness. Joy squinted, shielding her eyes as a car slowed down near them. Her heart jumped. Maybe someone would help. But then she remembered. Rich people never helped. They only stared and drove away without a second glance. The car stopped completely. Joy could see it was a big, black, expensive car, the kind she had only seen in movies. Through the tinted windows, she could not see who was inside. For a moment, nothing happened. The car just sat there, engine humming softly. Joy felt uneasy. Why were they not moving? Then slowly, the back window rolled down just a little. Joy could not see the face clearly, but she felt someone watching her closely. She looked down quickly, embarrassed by her wet clothes and dirty hands. She did not want anyone's pity. She only wanted help for her mother. After what felt like forever, the window rolled back up. The car pulled away slowly, its red taillights fading into the rain. Joy let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. "They're gone, Mama." But Mary was staring at the road where the car had been. Her face was pale. Her lips trembled. "Mama?" Joy touched her shoulder gently. "What is wrong?" Mary grabbed Joy's hand tightly, her fingers cold and shaking. "Joy, that car. Did you see who was inside?" "No, Mama. The windows were dark." Mary closed her eyes and whispered something Joy could not hear. "Mama, what did you say?" But she only shook her head and turned away, coughing again. Joy felt a chill run down her spine. Something about the way her mother reacted to that car felt wrong, but she pushed that thought aside. Right now, she needed to focus on getting Mary home. 20 minutes later, a kind truck driver stopped and offered them a ride. Joy thanked him over and over as he helped her lift Mary into the back. When they finally reached their small, one-room house in the poor part of town, Joy was completely exhausted. She laid Mary on the mat, covered her with our only blanket, and sat beside her, watching her breathe. The rain pounded on their zinc roof, loud and unforgiving. Joy stared at the ceiling, her mind racing. How would she pay for the surgery? How would she feed them tomorrow? How much longer could she keep going like this? A single tear rolled down her cheek, but she quickly wiped it away. She could not afford to cry. Crying would not solve anything. God, if you're listening, please help us. I don't know what else to do. Outside, the rain continued to fall, and somewhere across the city, in a mansion surrounded by tall gates and security guards, an old woman named Grace sat by her window, staring at the storm. She could not stop thinking about the girl she had seen, the girl with the face that haunted her, the face that looked just like her dead daughter. Grace picked up her phone and dialed a number. "James," she said when he answered. "Tomorrow morning, I want you to find that girl. I don't care what it takes. Find her." "Yes, madam," James replied. Grace hung up and stared out into the night. Her heart told her something big was about to happen, something that would change everything. But she didn't know if she was ready for the truth. Joy woke up before the sun rose. Her body ached from sleeping on the cold floor, but she did not complain. She never did. Complaining would not change anything. She sat up slowly and looked at Mary, who was still asleep on the mat. Her breathing was shallow and uneven. Joy's heart tightened with worry, but she forced herself to stand. She had work to do. The small room they lived in was barely big enough for two people. The walls were cracked, and the paint had peeled off long ago. A single light bulb hung from the ceiling, but Joy rarely turned it on. Electricity cost money. A small kerosene stove sat in the corner next to a bucket of water and a few dented pots. That was all they had. Joy poured some water into a bowl and washed her face quickly. The water was cold and it stung her skin, but she was used to it. She changed into her only other dress, a faded blue one with patches on the sleeves. It was clean, at least. Joy always made sure her clothes were clean, no matter how old they were. Before leaving, she knelt beside Mary and gently touched her forehead. Still warm. The fever had not broken. "Mama, I am going to work. I will be back before noon. Please rest." Mary stirred slightly but did not open her eyes. Joy kissed her cheek and stood up. She grabbed her small bag, locked the door, and stepped out into the dim morning light. The streets were already busy. Women carried baskets of goods on their heads, heading to the market. Men pushed wooden carts filled with bread and vegetables. Children ran barefoot, laughing and playing before school started. Joy walked quickly, her feet moving on their own. She had walked this path so many times that she could do it with her eyes closed. Her first job was at the market. She worked for a woman named Auntie Bola, who sold oranges and bananas. Joy's job was simple: arrange the fruits, call out to customers, and pack their orders. For this, she earned 500 naira a day. It was not much, but it was something. "Joy, you are late," Auntie Bola said sharply when she arrived. "I am sorry, Auntie. My mother was not feeling well." Auntie Bola waved her hand dismissively. "Excuses will not sell my oranges. Start working." Joy nodded and got to work. She arranged the fruits carefully, making sure the ripe ones were on top. She smiled at customers even when they were rude. She bargained politely even when they tried to cheat her. By noon, her back was hurting and her feet were swollen, but she did not stop. After the market, she ran to the restaurant. It was a small, crowded place that smelled like fried fish and jollof rice. Joy's job was to wash plates. Mountains and mountains of plates. Her hands turned red from the hot water and soap. Her arms burned from scrubbing, but she kept going. By evening, she was at the office building, mopping floors and emptying trash bins. The people who worked there never looked at her. To them, she was invisible, just another cleaner. But Joy did not mind. She was too tired to care. When she finally got home that night, it was almost 10 o'clock. Her body felt like it would collapse. But when she opened the door and saw Mary sitting up, her heart lifted. "Mama, you are awake." Mary smiled weakly. "My Joy, you work too hard." "It is nothing, Mama." Joy sat beside her and unpacked the small bag of rice and vegetables she had bought. "I will make us something to eat." As she cooked on the small stove, Mary watched her quietly. There was something in her eyes, something sad, something heavy. "Joy," Mary said softly, "if anything happens to me—" "Nothing will happen to you, Mama. You will get better. I will make sure of it." Mary opened her mouth to say something, but then stopped. She simply nodded and looked away. They ate their small meal in silence. Outside, the city buzzed with life, but inside their tiny room, it was just the two of them, just like it had always been. Meanwhile, across the city, Grace Williams sat in her large dining room, staring at the untouched plate of food in front of her. The table was long enough to seat 20 people, but tonight only 2 chairs were occupied. Hers and her grandson Ben's. Ben was 30 years old, tall and handsome. He wore an expensive suit and a cold expression. He barely looked up from his phone as he ate. "Grandmother." Ben, put that phone down. Ben sighed, but obeyed. "Yes, grandmother." Grace studied his face. The sharp jawline, the deep brown eyes, the serious expression that never seemed to soften. He looked so much like his father, and so much like Rose. "How was work today?" she asked quietly. "Busy. The investors are pushing for the new project. I told them we need more time." Grace nodded, but her mind was somewhere else. She was thinking about the girl from last night. The girl in the rain, the girl with Rose's face. "Grandmother," Ben's voice pulled her back. "Are you all right? You have been quiet all evening." Grace hesitated. Should I tell him? No, not yet. Not until I knew more. "I'm fine," she said with a small smile. "Just tired." Ben did not look convinced, but he did not push further. He finished his meal and stood up. "I have some work to do. Good night, grandmother." "Good night, Ben." After he left, Grace sat alone in the big, empty dining room. The chandelier above her sparkled with light, but it felt cold. This house, with all its wealth and beauty, felt empty. It had felt empty since Rose died. Grace walked slowly to her bedroom. On the dresser, there was a framed photograph. It was old and faded. In the picture, a young woman smiled brightly, holding a bouquet of flowers. Her eyes were full of life and hope. Rose. Grace picked up the photograph and held it close to her chest. Tears filled her eyes, but she did not let them fall. "Where did you go, my child? Where did you go?" A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she said, quickly wiping her eyes. James stepped inside, holding a small notebook.
Madam, I have some information. Grace's heart jumped. About the girl? Yes, madam. Her name is Joy. She lives in the Ajagunle area. She works 3 jobs to take care of her sick mother, Mary. They are very poor. Grace sat down slowly, her hands trembling. Joy, she repeated softly. What else? The mother, Mary, used to work as a housemaid many years ago, but I could not find out where. The records are old and incomplete. Grace's eyes widened. Housemaid? Could it be? Could Mary have worked for Rose? James, she said in an urgent voice, I need you to find out more about this Mary. Where she worked, who she knew, everything. Yes, madam, I will start tomorrow. After James left, Grace sat in silence. Her mind raced with questions. Who was Joy? Why did she look so much like Ben? And why did Mary seem so familiar? Grace knew one thing for certain. She had to meet this girl. She had to know the truth. But she also knew she had to be careful. If Joy really was connected to Rose, then someone had been hiding her for 20 years. And Grace needed to find out why. What secrets was Mary hiding? And how would Grace get close to Joy without scaring her away? The answers were coming, but so was danger.
The next morning, Joy was at the market again, arranging oranges under the hot sun. Sweat dripped down her face, but she wiped it away and kept working. Auntie Bola was in a bad mood, scolding her for every small mistake. Joy, those bananas are too ripe. Move them to the back. Yes, Auntie. Joy, why are you so slow today? Do you want me to lose customers? No, Auntie, I am sorry. Joy bit her lip and worked faster. Her hands moved quickly, stacking fruits, weighing them, packing them into bags. But her mind was elsewhere. She was thinking about Mary. This morning, her mother had barely been able to sit up. The cough was getting worse. Joy knew she needed to take her to the hospital again, but she had no money left. Joy! Auntie Bola's sharp voice cut through her thoughts. A customer is waiting. Are you deaf? Joy quickly turned and saw a man standing in front of the stall. He was older, maybe in his 50s, and wore a simple but clean shirt. He had kind eyes. Good morning, sir. What can I get for you? Joy asked politely. I will take 5 oranges, the man said, smiling gently. Joy selected the best ones and placed them in a bag. That will be 200 naira, sir. The man handed her the money, but instead of leaving, he stood there, watching her. Joy felt uncomfortable. Is there something else, sir? What is your name? He asked. Joy hesitated. Strangers did not usually ask for her name. Joy, sir. Joy, he repeated, nodding slowly. That is a beautiful name. Do you work here every day? Yes, sir, and at 2 other places. The man's eyebrows lifted in surprise. 3 jobs? You must be very hardworking. Joy did not know what to say, so she just smiled politely and went back to arranging the fruits. But the man did not leave. He stood there for another moment, then finally walked away. Joy thought that was the end of it, but she was wrong. That evening, as Joy was finishing her shift at the restaurant, washing the last pile of greasy plates, the owner called her. Joy, someone is here to see you. Joy's heart jumped. Who would come looking for her? She quickly dried her hands and stepped out of the kitchen. Standing near the entrance was the same man from the market, the one who bought oranges. Good evening, sir. Can I help you? Joy asked cautiously. Good evening, Joy. My name is James. I work for a very important family.
They are looking for a hardworking young woman to help with some tasks at their home and office. When I saw you today, I thought you might be perfect for the job." Joy's eyes widened. A job? With an important family? "What kind of tasks, sir?" she asked carefully. "Simple things: cleaning, organizing, running errands. The pay is very good, much better than what you are earning now." Joy's heart began to race. Better pay? That could mean money for Mary's surgery, money for food, money for rent. But something felt strange. Why would a rich family want to hire her? She was nobody, just a poor girl from a Jekinale. "Why me, sir?" she asked quietly. James smiled. "Because I can see you are honest and hardworking. Those are rare qualities." Joy wanted to believe him. She desperately wanted to believe him. But Mary's words from last night echoed in her mind. "Don't trust anyone, Joy." "Can I think about it, sir?" Joy asked. "Of course, but do not take too long. The family needs someone soon." He handed her a small card with a phone number written on it. "Call me when you decide." After he left, Joy stood there, staring at the card. Her hands were shaking. Should she take the job? Or was this some kind of trap? When she got home that night, Mary was awake, sitting on the mat and coughing weakly. "Mama, how are you feeling?" Joy asked, kneeling beside her. "I am fine, my child, just tired." Mary's voice was so soft, Joy had to lean closer to hear her. Joy hesitated, then pulled out the card. "Mama, a man came to see me today. He offered me a job. He says the pay is very good." Mary's eyes snapped open. "What man? What family?" "He said his name is James. He works for an important family. He did not say their name." Mary's face went pale. Her hands started trembling. "Joy, listen to me carefully. You must not take that job." Joy was confused. "Why not, Mama? We need the money. You need surgery." "I do not care about the surgery." Mary grabbed Joy's hand tightly, her grip surprisingly strong. "Promise me you will not go near that family. Promise me." "But Mama, promise me." Mary's voice was desperate now, almost a cry. "Okay, Mama, I promise." Mary relaxed slightly, but tears filled her eyes. "There are things you do not understand, Joy, things I have kept from you to protect you. But if you go near that family, everything will fall apart." "What things, Mama? Please tell me." But she only shook her head and turned away. "Not now. Not yet." Joy did not sleep that night. She lay on the floor, staring at the ceiling, her mind full of questions. Who was this family? Why was Mary so afraid of them? And why did she feel like her whole life was about to change? Across the city, in the Williams mansion, Grace sat in her study, waiting. James had called earlier to say he had made contact with Joy and offered her the job. Now all they could do was wait for her answer. Ben walked in, carrying a folder. "Grandmother, I need your signature on these documents." Grace took the folder but did not open it. Her mind was elsewhere. "Grandmother?" Ben's voice was concerned now. "You have been distracted for days. What is going on?" Grace looked up at him. His face, Rose's face, and now Joy's face. They were all the same. She made a decision. She had to tell him, at least part of the truth. "Ben, sit down." He sat, his expression cautious. "I saw a girl a few nights ago, a poor girl caring for her sick mother in the rain. When I looked at her face, I saw something that shocked me." "What did you see?" "She looks exactly like you." Ben frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean, she could be your twin sister. The resemblance is that strong." Ben leaned back in his chair, processing this. "That is strange. But grandmother, there are many people in the world. Coincidences happen." "This is not a coincidence," Grace said firmly. "I feel it in my bones. This girl is connected to our family. To Rose." Ben's expression hardened at the mention of his mother's name. He rarely spoke about Rose. Her death had left a deep wound in him that never fully healed. "What are you saying, grandmother?" "I'm saying I need to find out who this girl really is, and I need your help." Ben was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed. "If you believe this is important, I will support you. But grandmother, please be careful. Do not let hope blind you. People can be cruel. They might try to take advantage of you." Grace nodded. "I know. That is why I must be smart about this." Just then, Grace's phone rang. It was James. "Madam," she called. "She is coming tomorrow for an interview." Grace's heart soared. "Thank you, James." After she hung up, she looked at Ben. "She is coming. Tomorrow, I will meet her face to face." Ben stood up. "Then I will be there too. If this girl is trying to deceive you, I will know." Grace did not argue. She knew Ben was only trying to protect her. But deep inside, she already knew the truth.
Joy stood outside the tall black gates of the Williams mansion, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst out of her chest. She had never seen anything like this before. The gate alone was taller than her entire house. Beyond it, she could see a huge building with white pillars, large windows, and a fountain in the front yard. This was where rich people lived, people who belonged to a different world. Joy looked down at her dress. It was her best one, but it was still old and faded. She had washed it 3 times last night to make sure it was clean. Her shoes were worn, but she had polished them until they shined. She wanted to look presentable, even though she felt completely out of place. She had almost not come. After Mary's desperate plea last night, Joy had thrown the card away. But this morning, when she saw Mary struggling to breathe, saw the pain in her eyes, Joy knew she had no choice. She needed this job. She needed the money. So she had picked up the card, called James, and here she was. "God, please let this be the right decision," she whispered. She pressed the button on the intercom. A voice crackled through. "Yes?" "Good morning. My name is Joy. I am here for the interview." There was a pause. Then the gate slowly swung open. Joy took a deep breath and walked through. The driveway was long and lined with beautiful flowers. Joy had never seen so many colors in one place. Red roses, yellow sunflowers, purple orchids. It was like walking through a dream. When she reached the front door, James was waiting for her. He smiled kindly. "Good morning, Joy. Thank you for coming. Please, follow me." Joy followed him inside, her eyes wide. The inside of the house was even more beautiful than the outside. The floors were so shiny she could see her reflection. A huge chandelier hung from the ceiling, sparkling like 1,000 stars. Paintings covered the walls, and the furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. Joy felt small, invisible, like she did not belong here.
James led her to a large sitting room. "Please, wait here. Madam Grace will be with you shortly." He left, and Joy sat down carefully on the edge of a sofa. She was afraid to lean back, afraid she might dirty the expensive fabric with her worn dress. Her hands were shaking. She clasped them together tightly, trying to calm herself. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. Joy looked up and saw an old woman entering the room. She was elegant, dressed in a simple but expensive outfit. Her hair was gray but neatly styled, but it was her eyes that caught Joy's attention. They were sharp, intelligent, and filled with something Joy could not name. Curiosity, sadness, hope? The woman stopped when she saw Joy. For a long moment, she just stared, her face frozen in shock. Joy stood up quickly. "Good morning, ma. My name is Joy." The woman did not respond immediately. She just kept staring, her eyes moving over Joy's face as if she were memorizing every detail. Joy felt uncomfortable. "Ma, are you all right?" Grace blinked, as if waking from a trance. Yes, I am fine. Please sit down." Joy sat back down and Grace took a seat across from her. The old woman's hands were trembling slightly, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "Thank you for coming, Joy. James tells me you are a very hard-working young woman." "I try my best, ma." "Tell me about yourself. Where do you live? Who do you live with?" Joy hesitated. She did not like talking about her life. It was too painful. But she answered honestly. "I live in a Jeganlay, ma, with my mother, Mary. She is very sick. I work 3 jobs to take care of her." Grace's expression softened. 3 jobs? That must be very difficult." "It is, ma, but I do not mind. My mother is all I have. I will do anything for her." "Where is your father?" Joy's face fell. "I don't know, ma. My mother says I was left at her doorstep when I was a baby. She took me in and raised me as her own." Grace's breath caught. Left at a doorstep, as a baby. 20 years ago. The pieces were falling into place. Before Grace could ask another question, the door opened and a young man walked in. He was tall, well-dressed, and handsome, but his face was cold, his eyes suspicious. "Grandmother," he said firmly, "I would like to be part of this interview." Grace nodded. "Of course. Joy, this is my grandson, Ben. He runs the family business." Ben sat down next to Grace, his eyes locked on Joy. He did not greet her, he just stared, analyzing her like she was a puzzle he needed to solve. Joy felt even more uncomfortable now. This man clearly did not like her. She could feel his hostility from across the room. "So, Joy," Ben began, his tone sharp, "you claim you were left at a doorstep as a baby. That is a very convenient story." "Ben," Grace said quietly, a warning in her voice. But Ben ignored her. "How do we know you are telling the truth? How do we know you are not here to take advantage of my grandmother's kindness?" Joy's face burned with embarrassment and anger. "I am not here to take advantage of anyone, sir. If you don't want to hire me, I will leave." She stood up ready to walk out. She did not need to be insulted like this.
"Wait," Grace said quickly, standing as well. "Please, Joy, do not leave. My grandson is just being protective. Please sit down." Joy hesitated, then slowly sat back down. but her pride was wounded. She had come here with hope, and now she felt like a beggar. Grace shot Ben a sharp look, then turned back to Joy. Joy, I would like to offer you a position. You will help with small tasks around the house and the office. The pay is 50,000 naira a month. Joy's eyes widened. 50,000 naira? That was more than she made in 3 months working all her jobs combined. Are you serious, Ma? Very serious. You can start tomorrow if you wish. Joy's heart soared. This was the answer to her prayers. With this money, she could pay for Mary's surgery, they could eat better, they could live better. But then she remembered Mary's warning. Promise me you will not go near that family. Joy's smile faded. She looked down at her hands, torn between hope and fear. May I have one day to think about it, Ma? She asked quietly. Grace nodded, though disappointment flickered in her eyes. Of course, take all the time you need, but please do not take too long. Joy stood up and thanked her politely. James escorted her back to the gate. As she walked down the long driveway, she felt eyes watching her. She turned and saw Ben standing at the window, his face unreadable. After Joy left, Ben turned to his grandmother. Grandmother, I do not trust her. Grace sighed. Ben, she is just a poor girl trying to survive. Or she is a scammer who heard about our family and is using her resemblance to me to manipulate you. Grace shook her head. You did not see what I saw, Ben. When I looked into her eyes, I saw Rose. I saw my daughter. Ben's face softened slightly. He hated seeing his grandmother in pain. Even if she does look like my mother, that does not mean anything. It could be a coincidence. Then let us find out for sure, Grace said firmly. I want a DNA test done. Quietly, without her knowing. Ben frowned. How? James collected a glass she drank from. We will send it to the lab. If there is a connection, we will know. Ben nodded slowly. And if there is no connection? Grace's voice was quiet, but resolute. Then I will let her go. But if there is, Ben, it means Rose had a child. It means part of her is still alive. Ben said nothing. He turned back to the window, his mind racing. Meanwhile, in a different part of the mansion, someone else had been listening. A man stood in the shadows of the hallway, his face twisted with anger. He had heard everything. The girl, the resemblance, the DNA test. His name was Richard, Ben's uncle and Grace's stepson. He had been part of this family for years, always waiting, always planning. And 20 years ago, he had done something terrible to secure his place. He had made sure Rose Williams disappeared. And now, this girl, this Joy, was threatening to expose everything. Richard's hands clenched into fists. He could not let that happen. He would not let that happen. He pulled out his phone and made a call. We have a problem, he said coldly. There is a girl. Her name is Joy. I need you to find out everything about her. And if she becomes a threat, take care of it. He hung up and smiled darkly. 20 years ago, he silenced Rose. If he had to, he would silence Joy, too. That night, Joy returned home to find Mary awake and waiting for her. Did you go? Mary asked weakly. Yes, Mama. They offered me a job. The pay is very good.
Mary's face crumpled. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Joy, please, do not take it. Please. Mama, why are you so afraid? Who are these people? Mary grabbed Joy's hand, her grip desperate. Because, my child, that family is the reason your real mother is dead. Joy froze. The room seemed to spin. What did you say? Mary's voice broke. Your mother, Rose Williams, she did not abandon you. She was running for her life, and someone in that family killed her.
Joy stared at Mary, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. The room felt like it was closing in on her. She could barely breathe. What do you mean, Mama? Joy's voice was barely a whisper. What do you mean someone killed her? Mary's tears flowed freely now. Her frail body shook with sobs. She had kept the secret for 20 years, carrying the weight of it alone. And now finally, the truth was breaking free. Sit down, my child, Mary said weakly. It is time I told you everything. Joy sat on the mat beside her, her hands trembling. She was not sure she wanted to hear this, but she had to know. Mary took a deep breath, her voice shaking. 20 years ago, I worked as a housemaid for a wealthy family, the Williams family. I worked for a young woman named Rose Williams. She was kind, beautiful, and full of life. She treated me like a sister, not a servant. Joy listened, her eyes wide. Rose was pregnant, Mary continued. She was so happy about the baby. She talked about you all the time, even before you were born. She had already chosen your name, Joy, because she said you would bring joy into her life. Tears filled Joy's eyes. Her real mother had named her, had loved her before she was even born. But then Mary's voice dropped to almost a whisper. But then Rose discovered something terrible. She found out that someone in the family was stealing money from the company. Large amounts of money. She found documents, bank statements, everything. Who was it, Mama? Richard, the stepson. He was stealing from the company for years, and when Rose found out, she told him she was going to expose him. She was going to tell Grace, her mother. Mary paused, coughing weakly. Joy handed her some water, and she drank slowly before continuing. Richard begged her not to. He threatened her. But Rose was stubborn. She said stealing was wrong and he had to face the consequences. So Richard did something evil. Mary's voice broke completely now. He arranged an accident. Rose's car went off a bridge one rainy night. They said it was an accident, that she lost control, but I knew the truth. I had heard Richard on the phone that morning talking to someone, arranging it. Joy's blood ran cold. He killed her? Yes, and I was terrified. I knew if I said anything, he would kill me too, so I ran. But before Rose died, she had given birth to you. The hospital called me because Rose had listed me as her emergency contact. When I got there, Rose was barely alive. She held you in her arms and begged me to take you, to hide you, to keep you safe from Richard. Those were her last words. Joy could not hold back her tears anymore. They poured down her face like a flood. Her mother, her real mother, had died protecting her. So I took you, Mary said, soft now. I disappeared. I changed my name. I moved to a Jegnoni where no one could find us, and I raised you as my own. I loved you like my own because Rose asked me to, and because you became my reason to live.
Joy threw her arms around Mary, sobbing into her shoulder. Mama, oh Mama, thank you. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for loving me. The two women cried together, holding each other tightly. After a long while, Joy pulled back, wiping her tears. Her face was different now, harder, determined. Mama, if Richard killed my mother, he has to pay. He cannot get away with this. Mary shook her head desperately. No, Joy. That is why I told you to stay away from that family. If Richard finds out you're alive, he will kill you too. Please, my child, let the past stay buried. But Joy's mind was made up. I cannot, Mama. My mother deserves justice. In that family, Grace, she is my grandmother. She has been looking for me without even knowing it. I cannot hide anymore. Mary grabbed her hand. Joy, please, I am begging you. Joy kissed her mother's forehead gently. You saved my life, Mama. Now it's time for me to finish what my mother started. I will be careful, I promise, but I have to do this. The next morning, Joy called James. I will take the job, she said firmly. James sounded relieved. That is wonderful, Joy. Can you start today? Yes, I will be there this afternoon. When Joy arrived at the Williams mansion, Grace was waiting for her in the sitting room. The old woman's face lit up when she saw her. Joy, I am so glad you came back. Joy looked at Grace differently now. This was her grandmother, her blood, the woman her mother had loved. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Ma, Joy said softly. Grace smiled warmly. Come, let me show you around. As they walked through the mansion, Grace talked about the family, the business, and the history of the house. Joy listened carefully, memorizing every detail. She needed to understand this world if she was going to survive in it. Ben appeared in the hallway, his face still cold and suspicious. But Joy met his gaze without flinching. She was not afraid of him anymore. She belonged here just as much as he did. Ben, Joy will be working with us now. Please make her feel welcome. Ben nodded stiffly, but said nothing. He walked past them without a word. Grace sighed. Do not mind him, Joy. He is protective of me. He will warm up to you eventually. Joy doubted that, but she didn't care. She wasn't here to make friends. She was here for the truth. That evening, Grace invited Joy to have dinner with her. They sat at the long dining table, just the two of them. The food was delicious, but Joy could barely taste it. Her mind was racing. Joy, may I ask you something? Yes, Ma. Your mother, Mary, how long has she been sick? For about 2 years now, Ma. The doctors say she needs surgery, but we can't afford it. Grace's eyes filled with sadness. I will pay for the surgery. Joy looked up shocked. Ma, I cannot accept that. It's too much. Please, Grace said, her voice breaking slightly. Let me do this. I have so much and you have so little. It would make me happy to help. Joy's eyes filled with tears. This woman, her grandmother, was so kind, so generous, and she had no idea they were family. Thank you, Ma, Joy whispered. You don't know how much this means to me. Grace reached across the table and held Joy's hand. You remind me so much of someone I loved, someone I lost. Joy's heart pounded. Who, Ma? My daughter, Rose. She died 20 years ago. But when I look at you, I see her. It's like she's here with me again. Joy squeezed Grace's hand tightly, tears streaming down her face. Ma, there's something I need to tell you. But before Joy could speak, the dining room door burst open. Richard walked in, his face twisted with anger. "Grace, we need to talk. Now." Grace frowned. "Richard, can it not wait? I am having dinner." "No, it cannot wait." Richard's eyes locked on Joy, and she saw something dark and dangerous in them. "Who is this girl, and why is she in our house?" Grace stood up, her voice firm. "This is Joy. She works for me now, and you will speak to her with respect." Richard's jaw clenched. He stared at Joy for a long, tense moment. Then he turned and walked out without another word. Joy's blood ran cold. She knew that look. It was the look of a man who had recognized a threat. Richard knew, or at least he suspected. And now, Joy's life was in danger. Later that night, Richard made a phone call. "I need you to do some digging," he said coldly. "There's a girl named Joy. I need to know everything about her, where she came from, who her parents are, everything." "Yes, sir," the voice on the other end replied. Richard hung up and poured himself a drink. His hands were shaking slightly. He had worked too hard, sacrificed too much to let some poor girl ruin everything now.
If Joy was who he thought she was, then she had to disappear, just like Rose. And this time, he would make sure there were no mistakes. Meanwhile, in Grace's study, the DNA test results had arrived. Grace sat alone staring at the envelope on her desk. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. This was it, the moment of truth. She opened it slowly and read the results. Her breath caught, her eyes filled with tears, her hand flew to her mouth. The results were positive. Joy was her great-granddaughter, Rose's child. The baby Grace thought had died 20 years ago was alive, and she was here. Grace sank into her chair, sobbing with relief and joy. After 20 years of grief, after 20 years of believing her daughter's legacy was gone, she finally had proof. Joy was family. Joy was blood. Joy was a miracle. But Grace also knew what this meant. If Joy was alive, then someone had hidden her all these years. And there was only one person who had a reason to do that: Richard. Grace's tears of joy turned to tears of rage. If Richard had hurt Rose, if he had taken her daughter away from her, then he would pay. But first, she had to protect Joy, because if Richard realized who Joy was, he would try to hurt her too. Grace picked up. The next morning, Joy arrived at the Williams mansion with a strange feeling in her chest. Something had shifted. The air felt heavier, like a storm was building. Grace greeted her at the door with a warm smile, but Joy noticed something different in her eyes. They were red, like she had been crying. But there was also something else: determination, strength. "Good morning, Joy. Come in, please." As Joy stepped inside, she saw Ben standing in the hallway, his arms crossed. For the first time since they met, he did not look angry. He looked concerned. "Grandmother wants to speak with you," Ben said quietly, in the study. Joy followed them both to a large room filled with books and expensive furniture. Grace closed the door behind them and gestured for Joy to sit. Joy's heart began to race. Something was wrong. She could feel it. Grace sat down across from her, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She looked at Joy for a long moment, as if searching for the right words. "Joy," Grace began softly, "I need you to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Yes, Ma." "Your mother, Mary, she told you she found you as a baby, but did she ever tell you anything else? Anything about where you came from, about your real parents?" Joy's breath caught. How did Grace know? Had Mary told her? Joy looked down at her hands, tears already forming in her eyes. She had planned to tell Grace the truth eventually, but not like this. Not so soon. "She told me," she whispered. "Last night, she told me everything." Grace leaned forward, her voice urgent but gentle. "What did she tell you?" Joy looked up, tears streaming down her face. "She told me my real mother's name was Rose Williams. She told me that Rose was running from someone dangerous, and she told me that someone in this family killed her." The room fell silent. Ben's face went pale. Grace's hands trembled, but her eyes remained steady. "Do you know who killed her?" Grace asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know," Joy said. "Mary said it was Richard. He was stealing from the company, and my mother found out. She was going to expose him, so he killed her." Ben stood up abruptly, his face twisted with shock and anger. "That is impossible. Uncle Richard would never—" "Ben," Grace interrupted, her voice firm. "Sit down." Ben sat, but his jaw was clenched tight. His whole world was crumbling around him. Grace reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a folder. She opened it and placed a document in front of Joy. "This is a DNA test," Grace said quietly. "I had it done without telling you. I am sorry for that, but I needed to know the truth." Joy looked at the document. Her eyes widened as she read the results. 99.9% match. Joy is the biological great-granddaughter of Grace Williams. Joy's hand shook. Seeing it in writing made it real. She was not just Joy, the poor girl from Ajegunle. She was Joy Williams. She was family. "You are my great-granddaughter," Grace said, her voice breaking with emotion. "You are Rose's child. You are the piece of her I thought I had lost forever." Joy could not hold back her tears anymore. She stood up and fell into Grace's arms. The two women held each other tightly, crying together. "I am so sorry," Grace whispered. "I am so sorry I was not there to protect you. I am so sorry you grew up in poverty while I lived in this mansion not knowing you existed." "It is not your fault," Joy sobbed. "You did not know." Ben stood frozen, watching them. His face was a mixture of confusion, anger, and something else. Acceptance, perhaps. Slowly, he approached them. "Joy," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology. I was wrong about you. I thought you were a scammer, but you are family. You are my cousin." Joy pulled away from Grace and looked at Ben. For the first time, she saw warmth in his eyes. "I forgive you," she said softly. Ben nodded, then turned to Grace. "Grandmother, if what Joy says is true, if Richard really did kill my mother, then we need to act, now." Grace's face hardened. "I have already started. My lawyer is investigating him. We will have proof soon." But before anyone could say another word, the study door burst open. Richard stood in the doorway, his face twisted with rage. In his hand, he held a phone. So, the little orphan is not so innocent after all.
Grace stood up, placing herself between Richard and Joy. "Get out of my house, Richard." He laughed bitterly. "Your house? I have lived here for 25 years. I built half of this company, and you are going to throw me out because of some girl with a fake story?" "It is not fake," Ben said. "We have DNA proof. Joy is Rose's daughter, and we know what you did." Richard's eyes narrowed dangerously. "What did I? And what exactly do you think I did?" "You killed Rose," Grace said, her voice cold as ice. "You killed my daughter because she found out you were stealing from the company." For a moment, Richard said nothing. Then slowly, he began to clap. "Bravo," he said mockingly. "You figured it out. Took you 20 years, but you finally got there." Joy's blood ran cold. He was admitting it. He was actually admitting it. "You monster," Grace whispered, her voice shaking with rage. "How could you? She was my daughter. She was pregnant. She was innocent." Richard's face twisted with anger. "Innocent? She was going to ruin me. She was going to take everything I worked for and throw it away. I had no choice." "You always have a choice," Ben said. "You chose to be a murderer."
Richard's eyes locked on Joy. "And you should have stayed hidden. Mary did a good job keeping you away all these years. But now you have made a mistake. Now you have walked right into my hands." He pulled something from his jacket pocket. A small black object. It was a gun. Grace gasped. Ben moved in front of Joy protectively. "Richard, put that down," Grace commanded. But Richard shook his head. "No, I have spent 20 years covering my tracks. I will not let some girl destroy everything now." "You will not get away with this," Ben said. "The police are already investigating you. Even if you hurt us, they will find you." Richard smiled coldly. "Then I have nothing to lose." He raised the gun, pointing it directly at Joy. Time seemed to slow down. Joy's heart pounded. She thought of Mary. She thought of her mother, Rose, who had died protecting her. But before Richard could pull the trigger, the study door burst open again. James rushed in, followed by 2 police officers. "Drop the weapon," one officer shouted. Richard spun around, surprised. In that moment of distraction, Ben lunged forward and knocked the gun out of Richard's hand. It clattered to the floor. The officers rushed forward, tackling Richard to the ground. They handcuffed him quickly. "Richard Williams, you are under arrest for the murder of Rose Williams and for attempted murder." Richard struggled, shouting and cursing, but it was useless. They dragged him out of the room. Grace collapsed into her chair, her whole body shaking. Joy ran to her side. "Are you all right, Ma?" Yes, I am fine. Thank God you are safe." Ben stood by the window, his fists clenched. "It is over," he said quietly. "Finally, it is over." James approached Grace. "Madam, I called the police as soon as I heard shouting. I am sorry I did not act sooner." "You did perfectly, James," Grace said, her voice filled with gratitude. "You saved us all." Later that evening, after giving their statements to the police, the 3 of them sat together in the sitting room. Grace held Joy's hand tightly. "You are safe now. Richard will never hurt you again." Joy nodded, tears of relief streaming down her face. Thank you for believing me." "I should have known sooner," Grace said sadly. "I should have suspected Richard years ago. But I was blind. I trusted him." "It is not your fault," Ben said firmly. "Richard was a good liar. He fooled all of us." Grace looked at Joy, her eyes filled with love. "You look so much like her. Like Rose. Every time I look at you, I see my daughter."
and it gives me hope. I wish I could have known her, Joy said softly. She would have loved you, Grace said, smiling through her tears. She did love you. That is why she fought so hard to keep you safe. Ben stood up and walked over to Joy. He extended his hand. Welcome to the family, Joy, officially. Joy took his hand and shook it, smiling. Thank you, Ben. For the first time since this whole journey began, Joy felt something she had never felt before. She felt like she belonged. The hospital room was quiet, except for the steady beep of the machines monitoring Mary's heartbeat. Joy sat beside the bed, holding Mary's fragile hand. The surgery had been successful. Grace had paid for everything, just as she promised. The best doctors, the best care, everything Mary needed. Mary's eyes fluttered open slowly. When she saw Joy, a weak smile spread across her face. "My Joy," she whispered. "Mama." Joy squeezed her hand gently, tears already forming. "How are you feeling?" "Better, much better." Mary's voice was soft but clearer than it had been in months. "The pain is gone." Joy smiled through her tears. "Good. You are going to get strong again, Mama. You are going to be well." Mary's eyes searched Joy's face. "Tell me everything. What happened after I told you the truth?" Joy took a deep breath and told her everything. The DNA test, the confrontation with Richard, the gun, the arrest. Mary listened, her eyes wide with shock and relief. When Joy finished, Mary closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank God. Thank God you are safe." "I am safe because of you, Mama. You protected me for 20 years. You gave up everything to keep me hidden. You loved me when no one else could." "You were easy to love," Mary said, opening her eyes again. "From the moment Rose placed you in my arms, I knew you were special. I knew you would grow up to be strong, and I was right." The door opened softly and Grace walked in. She had been waiting outside, giving Joy and Mary time alone. But now she needed to meet the woman who had saved her great-granddaughter's life. Mary's body tensed when she saw Grace. Fear flickered in her eyes. "It is all right, Mama," Joy said quickly. "This is Grace, my grandmother. She knows everything, and she is not angry with you." Grace approached the bed slowly, her eyes filled with emotion. "Mary," she said softly, "I cannot thank you enough for what you did. You saved Joy's life. You raised her with love and care. You gave her everything you had, even when you had nothing." Mary's eyes filled with tears. "I am sorry, Ma. I am sorry I kept her from you all these years, but I was so afraid. Rose begged me to hide her. I had to keep my promise." Grace reached out and took Mary's other hand. "You did exactly what you should have done. You protected her. And because of you, she is alive today. You are a hero, Mary. Rose would be so grateful to you, and so am I." Mary began to cry, deep sobs of relief and release. For 20 years, she had carried the guilt of keeping Joy hidden. For 20 years, she had wondered if she had done the right thing. Now, finally, she had her answer. "Thank you," Mary whispered. "Thank you for understanding." "No, Mary, thank you. Thank you for loving Joy as your own. Thank you for being the mother she needed." The three women sat together, holding hands, crying and healing together. 2 weeks later, Mary was released from the hospital. Grace had insisted that both Mary and Joy move into the Williams mansion. At first, Mary refused. She did not want to be a burden, but Joy convinced her. Mama, you have spent your whole life taking care of me. Now it is time for me to take care of you. Please, let us do this. Mary finally agreed. The day they moved in, Grace had prepared a beautiful room for Mary. It had large windows with a view of the garden, a comfortable bed, and everything she could need. Mary stood in the doorway, her eyes wide with disbelief. "This is too much, Ma." "It is not enough," Grace said firmly. "You deserve comfort and peace after everything you have been through." Joy's room was next to Mary's. It was larger than their entire house in Ajegunle. Joy walked around slowly, touching the soft curtains, the clean walls, the big bed. It felt like a dream. But the best part was not the room. It was the family. That evening, they all sat together for dinner. Grace, Ben, Joy, and Mary. James joined them too, as Grace insisted he was part of the family. "A toast," Grace said, raising her glass of juice. "To family, to the ones we lost and to the ones we found." They all raised their glasses. To family. As they ate and talked, Joy felt something she had never felt before. She felt complete. She had Grace, who looked at her with so much love it made her heart ache. She had Ben, who had slowly become protective of her, like a real brother. She had Mary, her mama, who was finally healthy and happy. And she had James, who had become like an uncle. This was family, real family. Over the next few months, life settled into a new rhythm. Richard was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Rose Williams and attempted murder. The evidence was overwhelming. His confession had been recorded, and the police found more proof of his crimes hidden in his office. Grace felt a strange mix of emotions when the verdict was announced. Justice had been served, but it didn't bring Rose back. Nothing could. Still, having Joy helped. Every time Grace looked at her great-granddaughter, she saw Rose. The same smile, the same kindness, the same strength. Ben taught Joy about the family business. At first, Joy was overwhelmed. She knew nothing about companies, investments, or meetings, but she was smart and willing to learn. Ben was patient with her, and slowly, she began to understand. "You are a natural," Ben said one day after a successful presentation. "In a few years, you will be running this company." Joy laughed. "I don't think so, but I'm happy to help however I can." Grace watched them work together and smiled. Her family was healing, growing, becoming whole again.
One evening, Joy found Grace sitting alone in the garden, staring at a photograph. It was a picture of Rose, young and beautiful, smiling at the camera. "She was so lovely," Joy said softly, sitting beside Grace. "Yes, she was. And so are you. You have her heart, Joy, her kindness, her courage." Joy looked at the photograph, wishing she could have known her mother. "Do you think she would be proud of me?" Grace turned to her, eyes shining with tears. "She would be so proud. You survived when everything was against you. You stayed kind, even when life was cruel. You forgave, even when you had every right to be angry. Yes, my dear, she would be so proud." Joy leaned her head on Grace's shoulder, and Grace wrapped her arm around her. "I miss her," Grace whispered. "I know," Joy said softly. "But she is still here. In you, in me, in this family. She will always be here." Grace smiled through her tears. "You are right. She lives on through you." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the sunset over the garden. 6 months later, the Williams Company held a special event. Grace stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd of employees, investors, and reporters. Beside her stood Ben and Joy. "Thank you all for coming," Grace began. "Today, I want to announce something important. For 20 years, I believed my daughter Rose was gone forever. But I was wrong. She left behind a gift, a beautiful, strong, kind gift. My great-granddaughter, Joy Williams." The crowd murmured with surprise and interest. Joy has proven herself to be a valuable member of this family and this company. She has worked hard, learned quickly, and shown the same integrity her mother had. Today, I am officially naming her as a board member of Williams Company. Applause filled the room. Joy's eyes filled with tears. She had never imagined this, never dreamed she would stand here in front of all these people as part of something so big. Ben leaned over and whispered, "You deserve this, Joy. Welcome to the family business." After the announcement, reporters crowded around, asking questions. Joy answered them calmly and gracefully. Grace watched with pride. This was what Rose would have wanted. Her daughter standing tall, confident, and proud. That night, back at the mansion, they celebrated. Mary sat in the living room, healthy and smiling. James brought out a cake he had secretly ordered. Ben poured drinks for everyone. "To Joy," Grace said, raising her glass once more. "You brought light back into this family. You reminded us what love and forgiveness look like. We are blessed to have you." "To Joy," everyone echoed. Joy looked around at the faces of the people she loved. Her family. Her real family. She thought about her journey. From the girl shivering in the rain at a bus stop to standing here, surrounded by love and acceptance. She thought about her mother, Rose, who had fought so hard to protect her. She thought about Mary, who sacrificed everything to raise her. She thought about James, who never stopped searching even when he did not know what he was looking for. And she thought about herself, Joy, the girl who survived, the girl who had found her way home. "Thank you," Joy said, her voice breaking with emotion. "Thank you all for loving me, for accepting me, for making me feel like I belong. I spent my whole life feeling like I did not fit anywhere, but now I know where I belong. I belong here, with you, my family." Grace stood and pulled Joy into a tight embrace. "You always belonged here, my dear. You just had to find your way back to us." Ben joined the hug, then Mary, then James. They all stood together, holding each other, a family reunited after 20 years of pain and separation. Outside, the stars shone brightly in the Lago sky, and somewhere, perhaps, Rose was watching her daughter live the life she had always wanted for her. A life filled with love, a life filled with family, a life filled with joy. Sometimes the family we search for has been searching for us too. Life may take us on difficult paths, through pain and hardship. But if we stay strong, if we keep hoping, if we never give up, we will find our way home. And when we do, we will discover that we were never truly alone. Love has always been waiting for us, ready to welcome us back where we belong.